I don't remember when was the last time I heard my parents' voice. My father, a former teacher, TV producer, journalist, is serving in prison, suffering because of me. My mom, a former math teacher, also suffering because of me. My name is Alfred Aierken. I'm an ethnic Uyghur.
The striking image behind us here is from one of the so-called political re-education camps. As many as 1 million or more Uyghur and other Muslims are being held in camps just like this. Individuals are arbitrarily detained, and in many cases, detention appears to be indefinite.
The Chinese government has intensified its most severe crackdown on all religious faiths since the Cultural Revolution. The central government has issued commands to each provincial party secretary, making them responsible to bring religion in line with Communist Party ideology.
There are no such things as re-education centers. Xinjiang is a victim of terrorism. Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region has undertaken campaigns to crack down on violent terrorist activities according to law. With respect to criminals involved only in minor offenses, the authority provides them with assistance and education by assigning them to vocational education and employment training centers. The legal rights of the offenders assigned to vocational education and employment training centers are duly protected and are not subject to any arbitrary detention, let alone ill treatment there. The argument that 1 million Uyghurs are detained in re-education centers is completely untrue.
There's decades of history of repression by the Chinese government in the Uyghur region, and it's slowly been getting worse over the last few decades. The current round of detentions, particularly in what the Chinese state is calling re-education camps or vocational education centers, that began in 2017. There are a number of things that I think have led to this trend. One was the transferring of the party secretary. He was previously in Tibet. People probably know that there's a lot of repression going on there against Tibetans as well. In August of 2016, he was transferred to be party secretary of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. And that's when we started seeing a huge increase in security spending, personnel hiring, construction of police stations, and shortly thereafter, we heard about people being recalled from abroad back to the Uyghur region, and then we heard about people being forced into these camps. There were a couple of attacks outside of the Uyghur region in China. So there was an attack in Tiananmen Square and one in Yunnan province. And critically, there was an attack when Chinese General Secretary Xi Jinping was visiting Xinjiang. There was a bombing of a train station while he was there. These were perpetrated by individuals or small groups of Uyghurs. The Chinese government likes to say that these attacks were part of a larger sort of global terrorist movement. A lot of the unrest that we see in the Uyghur region through the 1990s and the 2000s and beyond look an awful lot like spontaneous uprisings of people that have been repressed.
My mom didn't want me to study abroad because she thought that I will say something reckless or say something without thinking will make China angry, and I will have a very serious consequence. So I made a promise to my mom many times that I will come back. I will be on the plane after they are graduated. So things like that. There was a guy who helped me during when I was applying a visa. He was in the U.S. before, so he told me that most of the Uyghurs in the United States are in Virginia. So you should not go to Virginia if you want to come back. So I really stayed away from Virginia, even though I have relatives there. Done everything Chinese government asked us to do. I didn't stand up for anything. I didn't say anything. I stay away from Uyghurs, but still my parents get disappeared.
On a global level, Islamophobia exists in ways that we can't really imagine. That you have concentration camps right now in China where 800,000 to 2 million Muslims are interned because of the faith that they practice.
From personal experiences as a Holocaust survivor, I know what hatred can lead to. Because I have suffered from persecution. I have suffered from discrimination. So I know exactly what's happening right now in China. In this century, 21st century, it is totally unacceptable.
What we're talking about today is not something for a few, it is for all. And that is a moral respect for one another.
The Chinese Communist government's attack on the Uyghur people today is the long-term aim of eradicating them under the guise of fighting extremism. I decided to expose the atrocity perpetrated by the Chinese government in East Turkestan and talked about fate of my in-laws and the conditions of the camps. 6 days later, my sister and my aunt were taken as a retaliation for my activism here in the United States.
Then there's China, which is in a league of its own when it comes to human rights violations. Today, more than 1 million Uyghurs, ethnic Kazakhs, and other Muslims are interned in re-education camps designed to erase their religious and ethnic identities.
I think at the beginning, a lot of people were really hesitant to speak out because they were worried that if they said too much or were seen to be troublesome, that their families back in the Uyghur region would suffer. I think a lot of people are starting to feel like they have to speak out so that people know what's happening. At first, the Chinese government response to international outcry about this was, these camps do not exist. We have no idea what you're talking about. So they've now switched to saying, yes, they exist and they're great and everybody in them is happy and we're re-educating them and giving them vocational skills. That's a sign that international pressure has been effective in forcing them to kind of present these in a different way.
This is my father, Aierken. I learned that he sentenced to 11 years prison. And this is my mom, Alfred. She is a mathematics teacher. She was a mathematics teacher. This is my cousin Uzat. He studied abroad, like me. And this is my mom's uncle. He was detained the day before his heart surgery. My financial source is my parents. And after losing contact with my parents, I first borrowed money from my friends or people I know here. Because at the time I thought this will just not this won't continue for a very long time, and things will get better. But then after like a semester or so, I realized like I can't just borrow money. I can't go back, because if I go back, I will just will disappear like many other Uyghur students, like other Uyghurs. "80 years ago, after the Allies stopped Nazis from their attempted ethnic cleansing, mankind made a promise that they will not allow this happen again. By breaking the silence, I am endangering the life of my family members. I ask US and United States government, United Nations, and all other foreign governments to take immediate action to stop this brutal attempted ethnic cleansing."
Thank you for watching this video from NBC4 New York. You can subscribe by tapping the button below me, and on the left you can see our latest updates, investigations, and digital exclusives. We'll see you next time.